Good to have you here on this Tuesday. Kevin BJ is not here. Ben Troop is here. And we're rocking you through here on 3 and Out. So much to get to. George Foster, former Georgia offensive lineman, won the SEC with the Dogs. He'll join us coming up in just a little bit. Also, Willie Mcclendon, former University of Georgia All-American running back and SEC Player of the Year in 1978. We'll talk about Georgia and Michigan. His son, who also played there at Georgia, wide receiver Georgia, is now the interim head coach at Oregon after Mario Cristobal leaves to take the Miami job. We'll talk to David Waters of Gators Breakdown. Billy Napier, formerly introduced, and now is out on the road trying to recruit in the final days before early signing period. And certainly some of the early notes are, up the recruiting budget to try to compete with the likes of Georgia and Alabama there in the SEC from a financial standpoint. So we got a lot to get to here on the show, but Mario Cristobal officially introduced at Miami. He played at Miami, 89 to 92. Cristobal's getting $8 million a year as part of Miami, I guess, getting serious about football. I guess that's the catchphrase when you tell people that's code for we're just going to spend a whole bunch more money. We're getting serious about football. Doesn't mean you're going to be any better, but you're getting serious about it as well. But he comes in, again, I feel like Miami's gone this route. Randy Shannon was a former South Florida guy, right? Former U player. It didn't work. Mark Richt was a former Miami Hurricane. I know he quit for health reasons, but that necessarily I don't think was going to continue. Manny Diaz, a South Florida guy, and now you go back Mario Cristobal, a South Florida guy, a former Hurricane. Ben, what are the expectations there? And, is sometimes you hear schools getting locked into, hey, we're going to stay inside the family. We want a Penn State man. We want a Virginia Tech man. The whole thing with Harbaugh at Michigan. He's a Michigan man. It's like, just go get the best guy for the job. I'm not saying Mario Cristobal is not a great coach. Certainly not say that. But how do you see this going? And certainly he is a guy that is he's a Miami guy. He understands the program. So how do you think this goes there for the Canes?
I mean, Kevin, it really depends on what they expect, what you expect from Cristobal, as an alum or as a fan. As an alum, I think you want to just get them back to just competing for ACC championships, right? They've only been to one ACC championship, but he's doing it the right way, right? When Billy Napier, now the new head coach of Florida, came in, his spending budget I think was at $7.5 million for assistants and analysts trying to do it. I think coming in right behind Alabama. Cristobal said, "Look, I want to be able to be able to compete with them. I got to be able to at least mimic what they're doing." So far so good, Kevin. What's scary to me about a former player trying to do things the quote Miami way, especially when you had as much success as Cristobal had when he was at Miami, that's not happening. Like, look how far college football has come since then. It used to be a time Miami didn't have to worry about not getting guys from South Florida. They'll stay in South Florida. Them boys going to Gainesville and Tallahassee. They're going to Tampa now and Orlando now, because that's how far it is. Because the brand, Kevin, you, me, and BJ, we understand the history of college football, especially some of these teams. Man, it might as well be most cars now, to show you, do not have CD players in them. Why? Because they don't make CDs anymore. That's how far we've come along. So when you think about it, Cristobal, I applaud what he's doing, Kevin, but you know, just like I know, Kevin, it's rougher when it's a former guy, because the conversation is, man, back when you played, look who he played with. Michael Irvin ain't fixing to walk out of this locker room with him. You had some of the greatest players, not just in Miami, but maybe in college football history. Now, I give him a lot of credit. He understands I need to be able to recruit. I need to be able to have the new thing is analysts. Shout out to Nick Saban. Yeah. Innovating that. But Kevin, you know, just like I know, if you don't got a great quarterback, if you can't beat the Clemsons out of Pitts and the Wake Forests of the world, it's going to be much to do about nothing, because this is the same Miami team that 2 years ago lost at home to Georgia Tech. Yep. So when you start talking about where you are as a program, hey, Cristobal was a sexy hire, right, Kevin? Because Miami looking around saying, dude, Florida's doing this. My God, what do we do to keep people talking about us in Florida State? Let's go out there and get, Cristobal. Okay, but we got Manny Diaz. So Manny Diaz was at Temple. Let's face it, Manny Diaz was a Band-Aid for a flesh wound. Like he was trying to make a problem go away, and it didn't. But Kevin, I just think that reality and perception is going to be far and wide when you talk about Miami, because you're talking about one of the most storied college programs in college football. And I think sometimes they hoping to get back to that. Ain't no 30 for 30s coming out of Miami. Those days are over with. Can they get back to being nationally relevant and competing for the ACC? Maybe. I think that's realistic. Because, Kevin, you know that just like I know. Until the college football playoff expands, Miami is not going to be one of those teams. And it's not because they lack talent. It's not because they lack resources. It's just college football has changed. You got to really compete with the other schools. It used to be you had to compete with Florida, Florida State. Dare I say they compete with FAU, FIU, UCF, USF? Because the brand Miami is there, but the product on the field isn't there. We'll see what happens with Cristobal. From what I'm hearing, he won the press conference, Kevin, but I'm kind of weary of that now. I don't want to hear oh my God, say all the right things. Yeah, but thank God he ain't got to play Utah, because I'm just saying you're going to get a team's best year in and year out. But, Kevin, as you all know, there are no mulligans anymore. You're going to have to come out winning games right now. Oh, and by the way, still got to try to have a good signing class with a national signing, early signing day rapidly approaching.
So look, and I think for Miami, and we've talked about this with Florida State and some others, is are you trying to have a good program, or are you trying to chase the good old days of the program? Again, I think Alabama's doing it, and everybody thinks that's what we aspire to be. But I think the days of a whole lot of teams thinking that, you can go Nebraska, Miami, Florida State. Oh, we'll go back. We'll be top 5 for a decade straight. Nope. I mean, Alabama does it, and that is a rarity, and that is because they are recruiting the best players with the best talent seemingly year after year. And on top of that, may have one of the best coaches or the best coach to ever do it. Ben, and again, it's one thing to say, well, I can recruit. I mean, if Nick's, there's been plenty of guys Alabama's always been able to recruit whoever they get. It's Alabama. They care about football. They've had a long tradition. They win championships. You got to have the coach that can bring it home. I mean, to win a championship as the way Nick Saban's doing it. I don't know that we're ever going to see a Miami like we saw before, right? I don't know that we're ever going to see a Florida State be in the top 4 for 15 years like they were in the past. I think we're starting to see college football truly hit that parity. I mean, look at the bowl schedule, for crying out loud. How many 6-6 and 7-5 teams are out there in this bowl? I mean, 85 scholarships. Everybody's on. It used to be even, I don't consider myself that old, but I mean, I'm middle-aged, but then I'm not so far removed where it still used to be, ESPN, ESPN2. Yep. Maybe there were ABC. There might have been 10, 12 football games on TV. Literally, if you are a fan of any team, you can watch your football game. A lot of them are on TV. Most of them, the ones that aren't streamed. But I mean, you look at the SEC during a college football weekend, especially in league play, every single SEC game is on TV. Every single ACC team is on TV. Every single Big 12 team, Big 10's got the Big 10 network. If a major network or a major cable network's not going to pick it up, guess what? The league has a TV channel and we'll put it on.
Yes.
So I think everybody can get noticed. Everybody can get seen a lot. If you're worried about the stage, I mean, we talk about guys from we don't just talk about Alabama and Georgia when we're talking about great players potentially going to the next level. You're talking about guys like Kenny Pickett could be a high draft pick. Levi Lewis could be a guy that could be a high draft pick. I mean, these are guys from all over the place. And the opportunity, unless you just are like, I want to win a championship, you can go and play competitive football at a high level almost anywhere in college football right now. And I think you're seeing that across the board where, Alabama, Georgia have the best recruiting classes, and they're typically up there.
Yep.
But outside of that, everybody else is mixing it up. I mean, look at the SEC. I told you, SEC put out a thing. 13 teams are making a bowl game out of the SEC. Now, that's a great thing to tout for sure.
But look at the
record.
Exactly. Look at
6-6 and 7-5.
Tennessee finished with a better record than Florida and South Carolina.
Right.
Kentucky with 9-3. Tennessee with 7-5. Then you got a bunch of 6-6s. And I think you make a great point, Kevin. It's like, since Cristobal has no longer been at, Miami, it's kind of gotten even. Now, I get it. Certain teams got the prestige. Like, I get it. You got a gazillion ESPN channels, ESPN 1, 2, 3, ESPN, all these different things. But Kevin, you're right. with the addition of an ACC network, how many times between when your team played and the next week can you see the game? Now, it's coming on all day long so you can see it, so the exposure is there. But you know, just like I know, you work at certain companies for certain reasons. The reason why certain companies can pay what other companies can't is because of how much money, how much revenue those teams bring in. But I tell people this all the time. You want to make millions of dollars? What kind of expectations you think come with that? Cristobal is the highest paid coach in the state. Higher than Napier. And look at what Napier had to do to even get consideration in Florida. He couldn't just be another coach in the Sun Belt. He had to win the Sun Belt, and beat Appalachian State. I mean, now I give it. Cristobal, he's kind of been waving the flag, right, for the Pac-12. But it ain't, but this is what Cristobal done. This is what he really did. Kayvon Thibodeau, who right now is the number 2 prospect coming out in the 2022 draft, went to Oregon. He chose Oregon. Me and BJ were at when Coach Willie Taggart's first game at Florida State. Kayvon Thibodeau was there, and he was out there like the president. He was out there by himself. I'm fanboying. I don't even know who Kayvon Thibodeau. I might have taken pictures with the kid. I don't even know who he is. And when the other recruits came out, they let him go back in. So he does have that ability. But does Kayvon Thibodeau go to Miami? If Cristobal is at Miami and not Oregon because he's a California kid, these people want to try to keep it close to home. Kevin, the recruiting rankings better reflect what he just did, because if I got a gazillion analysts breaking down third down conversions and who the best slot receiver, between 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 2, you're going to have to be able to have the results on the field. I mean, I don't doubt it, but Miami is stubborn in this way. They want to do it with a Miami player. They want to do it with a former Miami alum or have some Miami ties. They want to be able to do that. I mean, good luck with that, because the ACC is changing, and if the ACC is going to be more 2021 moving forward, Kevin, it's gonna be a free for all, especially if Clemson can't get their act together.
Yeah, I think there's some upward mobility, especially on that side of the conference for Mario Cristobal. But again, as you said, the expectations are going to be huge for Mario Cristobal to come in and get that program at a championship level. Started with an ACC championship, and certainly they want to be contending for a playoff spot, and maybe there's an expanded playoff, but they want to be contending for that playoff spot, no doubt. We got so much to get to here on the show. When we return, George Foster, former Georgia offensive lineman, will join us as Georgia gets ready for Michigan in the Orange Bowl. How much work do they have to do to get back to that level where they can knock off an Alabama to win a national championship and recover from what happened on Saturday? He'll join us next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us. Getting ready for a bowl season after the conference championship games last week. And again, Georgia dropping one to Alabama. How do they regroup and get ready for Michigan? Joining us here on the program, former Georgia offensive lineman, SEC champion George Foster joins us here on 3 and Out. George, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing great, man. Glad to be here.
Hey, appreciate you coming on and joining us. And obviously, winning the SEC means a whole lot. Georgia was there with Alabama, didn't play their best game, obviously, on Saturday. How do you put that behind you and know that, hey, there's a playoff where you may have to play those dudes again, but there's a kind of a second chance at it upcoming?
You really have no choice. And you also got to get ready for a Michigan team that has the same record as you, although in a different conference that some may seem to think is probably inferior to the SEC, tougher opponents. But they're 11-1 for a reason. Have a Heisman candidate rushing off the edge. You have to see them first. Do I think they can handle Michigan? Absolutely. But you have to take care of business first, and then you might get a chance to see Alabama again. But you're gonna have to play better football to beat Bama. Bama. Just talking to people that watched them all year, the consensus is they played their best game all year, and it looks to me like Georgia played their worst game all year. So that's a recipe for a win for Bama. So we get to see if they can do it again after they take care of business in Miami.
And George, when you think about this Michigan team, Georgia getting ready to play, kind of like how Georgia used to play with running the football. Do you think that's going to be a winning recipe for Georgia's offense to kind of take the ball out of Stetson Bennett's hand a little bit with those bookend pass rushes and try to get back to running the football?
Well, I think you have to take what's there. I think Georgia has the ability to be balanced. Stetson just can't let the moment get too big for him. He had 340 yards, passed for 3 touchdowns, but the problem was the 2 picks and the 1 return for a touchdown. You can't have those. Other than those, I know it's easy to say take these 2 plays away, and he had a decent game, but that's the fact of the matter. Those 2 plays didn't have to happen, and so I think he's mature enough to learn from that and still go into the next game, the Michigan game, and still throw it around a little bit, because you got weapons on the outside. Number 19, Bowers, you don't see many freshmen that you could probably say would be high draft picks. He would be a high draft pick this year as a freshman if he wasn't 19 or 18, however old he is. You got him. You got Pickens getting back into the mode. Pickens shows some of the ability to track the ball and make big catches in the last game, so they're working him back in. And of course, you got Lad McConkey that showed what he could do. He could get behind a secondary, even a secondary like Bama. So you got weapons outside. You can't forsake those just for the sake of getting the ball out of Stetson's hand. He's thrown it all year, and I think he can throw it again. He just has to learn that when it's not there, it's not there. Or have a better job seeing those disguised coverages. Saban is good at that, man. That's his wheelhouse. Those coverages in the back end. So you're gonna have to be on your best.
You look at the challenge of Michigan as an offensive lineman when you know the other team's strength is those guys on the defensive front. What's the thought process getting ready for a game like that?
You just have to really stick to your fundamentals. That's the thing about offensive line. We do the same thing. I'm a former offensive lineman. We do the same thing over and over and over. The key is to do it the right way over and over and over, and that gives you the best chance to win. I think they did. One of the best players in the country is Will Anderson, and I didn't hear his name a lot last Saturday until maybe the end of the game when it was already over. So I think those guys did a decent job with him. It wasn't always pretty, but they held him in check for most of the game, and that's a testament to the Georgia O-line. Hopefully they can do the same thing with Hutchinson. He's a beast off that edge, so they're gonna have their hands full but they also get a chance to use those running backs you talked about earlier and run the ball too to try to neutralize some of that.
To talk about the job Kirby Smart has done. I mean, if you think about replacing a guy like Mark Richt who had tremendous success at Georgia. You look at what he's got in Georgia, since he's gotten there, national championship, SEC championship, back in the SEC championship. Just to say Kirby and his job since he's been there.
I like what Kirby has done. I was a fan of Rick. I played for him my last 2 years. He helped get me the only championship, which is the SEC championship that I have on any level of any kind. So I'm grateful for him. And Kirby, if we replaced Rick, if it had to happen, Kirby was the only guy that I wanted to come in. I played with Kirby for a year at Georgia, and he came back and was a GA some. And so I was glad to see him back there. And it's something about having a guy leading your program that played in the program. I'm sure that's how Miami feels about Cristobal and whatnot, having been there before. And I think the thing with Kirby, he recruits like none other. Like they're getting guys that Georgia is loaded. They should win it all. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of everything to go right to win it all, no matter how good you are. Everything has to go right. It takes a little bit of luck, but the cupboard is full and it's busting at the seams. That's the one thing that you have to love about Kirby, especially the way he's recruited the trenches. That's the one thing that I don't think Mark Richt did well. He could get top 10 picks at the skill positions, but we kind of fell behind in the trenches, and that's where you have to win it up front in the SEC. And Kirby has been doing that, and also been winning games too.
Absolutely. George Foster joining us here on 3 and Out. And George, you mentioned that Kirby being a guy that played at the University of Georgia, and speak to that dynamic, because it certainly can go one of two ways, where it's, hey, I played here, I love it, and I really want it to succeed, or all that can still be true and you don't win enough games, and then you kind of get that sour taste. But what makes Kirby so special with, hey, I'm at my alma mater, I know the expectations are high, and he's actually meeting those expectations?
Yeah, like I said, he's doing a great job. He's been to, I think, 3 SEC championships. He's won one of them. He's been to the national championship. He has a chance to go to another one. Been to the playoffs twice. You can't ask for a much better start to a head coaching career. Like I thought, with Coach Rick, he was pretty much averaging about 10 wins a year, and I didn't think it could get any better. It's gotten better with Kirby, and I don't know where do you go from there. He's going to always recruit great. And then the thing with college football that I've come to realize, and it's not so much of it's not really a duh moment, but it's really based on players. College football is heavily based on players. The teams with the best players are going to win the most games almost 99% of the time. It's just because it's the haves and the have-nots. You know what I mean? And so the Georgia, Alabama, teams like that, they are the haves. And so if Kirby keeps Georgia as part of the haves, he's going to win a lot of games. And so I can't see him going anywhere anytime soon. There's no really better place to be. He has an awesome job right there, and the talent is right there with him.
George, you play with guys like Quincy Carter and DJ Shockley and David Green, and you see like Matthew Stafford. I mean, you've seen guys that come through Georgia, have great quarterback play. Stetson Bennett, I know we talked about him earlier. Yeah, if you look at him, he don't look the part, but at the end of the day, he's a Georgia kid and he understands. Do you think that Stetson Bennett is good enough to get you guys back to the promised land? And why won't they just look past his height and weight and look at the production he's giving you, on the field thus far?
Well, I think in that case, you're probably talking about outsiders. Obviously, the head guy says that Stetson is good enough, and I think with the players that he has around him, I think he's definitely good enough to win it. Bama, you just take Bama for instance. They're just now getting those guys that are physically, that are talented, that are, top round quarterbacks and whatnot. They didn't used to have that, but they were still winning. You know what I mean? So I think Stetson can do it. Stetson just can't make those mistakes. And you get the rare chance to, if you handle business, and and also if Bama handles business, not to discount Cincinnati, they're there for a reason. Um, if both teams handle business, they get a chance to rematch. And like you can't beat that. And so we'll see if he can indeed get the job done. So, and it's up to everyone else. There was a lot of letdowns in that game that didn't have anything to do with Stetson Bennett. Not even the least to do with Stetson Bennett. They could have done a lot better and a bunch of points in that game, a bunch of different units on that team to help win that game.
George Foster, our guest here on 3 and Out. George, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thank y'all for having me, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, appreciate it. George Foster joining us here on 3 and Out. And again, Georgia and Michigan coming up in Miami there to start the playoff. We've got much more to come here on 3 and Out. We come back, we'll chat with Willie Mcclendon, former Georgia running back, SEC Player of the Year, 1978. His son, now the interim head coach at Oregon, now that Mario Cristobal is in Miami. He'll join us next here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, as we get ready for bowl season. Of course, the college football playoff still 3 weeks away on New Year's Eve when we get those 2 semifinal games. But Georgia and Michigan going to play in the Orange Bowl in that first round, the semifinals of the college football playoff. And joining us here, former All-American running back and 1978 SEC Player of the Year, Willie Mcclendon, joins us here on 3 and Out. Willie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys, and thanks for having me on the show again.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on and joining us. From your standpoint, talk about what happened in the SEC championship game. I know there could have been multiple things, but what happened in the SEC championship game that maybe we didn't see happen all season long with this Georgia team once they went up against Alabama?
I think the biggest thing that happened was Alabama hearing all the flack about how great the Georgia defense was and how their offensive line could not compete. So once you make a team and individuals like they have at the University of Alabama, you really don't need to give those guys that underdog feeling. And so they took that underdog mantra, put it on their shoulders, and it showed up Saturday.
And Willie, if you talk about a guy like Nick Saban, who uses every single thing he can to motivate his team, obviously the whole rat poison thing, it was good and all this in the post game press conference. But talk a little bit more about that. A guy, Nick Saban, who says, "Look, man, I just need little bitty things to kind of motivate my team, because at the end of the day, while Georgia was the number 1 team in the country, they still had to climb that hill that known as Alabama."
That's correct, and you're so correct with that analysis. And right, once you have a team that is the history with its coaches, players, you make those guys feel like underdogs, and wow, hang on. So we did, and that's what happened Saturday.
And Willie, obviously, Georgia's got to put that behind them and get ready for the college football playoffs. Obviously, that's a second chance to go back and still attain the goals that are out there. How do you see this matchup against Michigan, another team that is going to be physical at the line of scrimmage? They want to run the football and really get after the quarterback with that defense. How do you take kind of some of the disappointment of what happened last Saturday, shove that aside, and get you ready for Michigan?
Well, hopefully they have gotten over that defeat in the first 24 hours and realize the challenge that they have in front of them with this University of Michigan football team. They are very physical. They play football the way a lot of coaches would like to play it. Good, aggressive defense, hard-nosed, beat-you-up offensive line, and just good football team. So hopefully, once again, that they've gotten over that beatdown within the first 24 hours and get focused on the task at hand.
And Willie, how much different is it when you talk about a team like Michigan, who I think has only played Georgia 2 times in the existence of Michigan and Georgia, but you're talking about a team that mirrors kind of how Georgia used to play offense. They want to run the football. They want to play stifling defense, but sometimes it's kind of good to get back to that. Just throw away all the game plans. It's going to be one-on-one. Who can establish the line of scrimmage? Who can go out there, and take the other man's will from them?
That's where it starts at first, and then the coaches make the adjustment as the game goes on. If you can't run the ball, then you make sure that your passing attack can get up to standard. You make sure that the players understand where they are in the situation, and you make those game time adjustments. So it's going to be a very, very good game.
Willie Mcclendon, our guest here on 3 and Out, as again Georgia headed to the college football playoff, and you look at the Georgia running game, Willie, and obviously things change as the game goes along. But where do you feel that Georgia run game is here late in the season? Obviously against a team like Alabama, where is it going to need to be against a team like Michigan?
I think the run game is really solid. It has been all year long. What was so different about the Alabama game in the SEC championship is that Georgia was playing catch up for the first time. So they didn't handle it well. The defense didn't handle it well. missed assignments for a lot of the long touchdown passes, the wide open receivers running throughout defensive backfield. So it would be once again, a great film to learn on, and they really need to get their minds right with the challenge that faced them. So I expect the Dogs to do so.
Willie, it's obviously storied, you and your son and the Mcclendon, your nephew Warren, obviously doing great things right now at the University of Florida on the offensive line. But something else to add to the Mcclendon legacy, your son Brian, the interim head coach right now for them Oregon Ducks, who's getting ready for a big-time bowl game.
Yes, and Brian is very excited about that challenge. When the head coach had the opportunity to move on to the University of Miami, the athletic director called Brian immediately and presented this opportunity for him. And so Brian, being the person that he is, accepted that challenge. So I'm looking for him to do what he's always done in this situation, is to lead men and continue to be a very positive person that he is.
And Willie, speak to that. Obviously, as a player, everybody said, "Hey, I want to make it to the next level and to and go to the NFL and the pros." But your son's been around this coaching game a little while. I mean, how difficult is it to rise the ranks and get that head coaching shot, even as at this point an interim basis? But obviously, to get that shot at a big time program like Oregon.
Well, I tell you, I think Brian was so fortunate to be neutered by Mark Richt, a guy that has a very deep respect for his game, for the game of football, and for his players. So from that aspect, Mark Richt, his influence on Brian, the type of person that he is, and really did a wonderful job of seeing the possibilities in Brian and offering him an opportunity to get in coaching immediately after his senior year. So Mark Richt has always been a favorite of the Mcclendon families, and I really love the relationship that he and Brian developed as time went on. And I think Brian adopted a lot of those positive things that he learned under Mark Richt, and this is where he is now.
And Willie, obviously, you talk about your son and how he came up through the ranks and just always, making it about young men. You look at a team like Notre Dame that did something unprecedented in hiring, Marcus Freeman, taking coming right behind Brian Kelly. If your son does become, the head coach, take the interim off, becomes the head coach of them Oregon Ducks, you got your Oregon Duck green ready to hit the plane to get to Eugene.
Absolutely. I had a chance to get out there and visit with them for the UCLA game, which was actually in Los Angeles that particular weekend I was out there. But absolutely, go green, go Ducks. All in.
Willie Mcclendon, our guest here on 3 and Out. Willie, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you guys once again, and go 3 and Out.
Hey, we appreciate it. Willie Mcclendon joining us here on 3 and Out. And again, Georgia in the semifinals. His son, now the interim head coach at the University of Oregon. So, as you said, the things going well there in the Mcclendon household with great player was Willie, son, the interim head coach at Oregon, nephew played on that offensive line at Georgia. So doing a great job. So a lot of good stuff happening there.
Kevin, that's the royal family. Every school has a royal family, right? I mean, when you think about Ole Miss, it's the Mannings. You got Eli and Archie. When you think about a team like down there in Florida where I was, you got the Jackson family, Willie Jackson Jr. and Sr., Terry Jackson. And the thing is, Willie Jackson Sr. was the first African American, obviously, to get a scholarship at Florida. His son became an All-American at receiver. His youngest son won a national championship. His stepdaughter played basketball. So when you think about the McClendons, listen, Willie, SEC Offensive Player of the Year, son played receiver. I think his brother went to Georgia. His nephew get a chance to possibly win a national championship. And now, hey man, them Oregon Ducks, man. So hey, if it is good to be in McClendon. I feel bad for the grandchildren. That is a lot. That is a lot to fulfill. But hey, man, shout out to the McClendons. Hey, that is royalty outside of the Edwards. I don't want to take away from Terrence and his brother Robert, but we talk about the McClendons, a great family with a great rich tradition in sports.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. Love to hear from you. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're also streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, and on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on this Tuesday. I'm Kevin Thomas. He is Ben Troop. We'll have Take 3 right around the corner. David Waters of Gators Breakdown will join us as 'tis the season for the coaching carousel. And Ben, we've seen a bunch of coaches really shore up their coaching staffs here in the last day or two. Georgia Southern, Georgia Tech, Florida, pretty much anybody that's named a head coach already has now rolled in with at least 2 or 3 assistants. Why? Because it's kind of funny the way social media is now, Ben. You see Billy Napier, Brent Pry, a lot of these guys who have come in and brought in new coaches, new assistants. They haven't even been to, I don't even know if some of them have been to their home base yet. It is, hey, congratulations, you are a part of the team. Now we need you to get up there and recruit.
They FedEx them some gear to whatever hotel room they was going to be at. But that's the name of the game, Kevin. Like people be saying, man, why do I see all these coaches hugging all these future student athletes? Have they even been home? Nope. They know hopefully they know what their wives look like. And listen, hopefully the spouse are out there, looking for houses. But Kevin, Dan Mullen is a dinosaur. Not as a coach, but what he said about recruiting. No, the lifeblood of a college football team is recruiting. And Kevin, look, I've seen the inside of more households in the last 2 weeks than I've seen in a lifetime, because that's what it's about. Hugging guys, saying great home visit, great. But that's the name of the game. And if you're looking at the best team in the country, they all have one thing in common. They all are probably top 10, top 15 in recruiting, and they're trying to keep those guys coming in, Kevin. But hey, man, recruiting is the name of the game.
I think the longest amount of time Billy Napier has actually spent in Gainesville was at the press conference. It would be
they said he was researching players on the plane, getting ready to be introduced, and then obviously he got to go through the taking the picture of the helmets, kind of like treated like a recruit.
Yeah.
And listen, they say he finally told people, listen, man, I'm gonna take some pictures, pick one of them. I got to hit the ground running because I got to keep the guys that we already had, and I got to try to go out there and get some guys. Because the one thing people know is Lincoln Riley go to USC. What about the Oklahoma guys? Somebody gonna try to snatch him. Hey man, Brian Kelly, he's in LSU. Somebody gonna try to snatch him. Hey man, it's a free fall right now, Kevin. Man, they said, listen, the word in the recruiting is undecided. I want him. Got to try to go get him.
And then you got to get your help, which means get your assistant coaches in there. And it was funny. I was kind of reading around. It's like you've seen Jeff Collins hire a couple of assistant coaches, and I don't know that the offense. It's funny. The offensive coordinator they just hired from Tulane. I don't know if he actually flew to Atlanta. He was out recruiting the day after the announcement. Brent Pry at Virginia Tech. I noticed a lot of Virginia Tech fans were giving him some grief on social media. It's like, does dude have another shirt? And it was like, he got hired, he hit the road, and they're like, we'll make sure he gets another shirt while he's out there doing the recruitment. It's like, you get these coaches hired. It's like they don't spend any time now with that early signing period. They'll spend more time on campus after that early signing period, and you get the dead period, than they have since they've been announced the head coach.
No, Kevin, that's it, right? Like the people go, listen, it's a rat race. Let's just call it what it is. When you got to be a college football coach, it doesn't matter, big school, small school, got to recruit. I don't care who you are and where you are. Now, having access to certain recruits is going to decide that's when it comes down to those budgets, Kevin, but they knew it. Like, the one thing a coach knows is this: if I'm not coaching, I'm recruiting, period. If I'm not in the office, I'm recruiting. So that's the name of the game. Listen, Sean Quinn, congratulations on being, on the staff of Virginia Tech. He got off the plane with a Virginia Tech. He's in somebody's household, hugging somebody, saying, "Hey." So, that's one thing to say too, Kevin. When you talk about where coaches come from, they got that area. Now they're going to be able to get the area that they're adopting geographically. Hey man, that's why I couldn't do the coaching thing, man. At the end, I saw Coach Rupp, who was the D-line coach at Florida, in the household with a Florida shirt on. He got fired. He was there the next week with a Tennessee shirt on with the same kid. Hey man, listen. Only thing changes is the colors in the team. I mean, you are the sales pitch is the same. Come to so and so school. We got the best of this, the best of that. If you want to win championships, hey,
we'll figure out the laundry later when it's all said and done. But yeah, the recruiting is just insane, and you've got a week and a half more to go of it until you get to that early signing period. It doesn't really take, but you do have the dead period for the holidays. They give everybody the break at Christmas, but it is a mad dash. And if people talk about this, I mean, yeah, you're recruiting for early signing period, but you're also talking to kids who haven't even played their junior season yet of high school football or their senior season yet. So you're already looking down the road for next year's class as well. It's absolutely crazy and fascinating to watch this stuff work in the recruiting of players to come to the college level. And certainly Even Kirby Smart, day after the SEC championship
Time to
game,
do it.
had a tough loss to Alabama. Look at me, I'm in the living room trying to get, the day after, you're all smiles when you're with that guy, even though you had a tough loss the night before. We got more to come. We'll take 3 on the flip side. When we come back, David Waters will join us. Gators breakdown next hour as well. It is 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We will have David Waters of Gators Breakdown join us coming up in about 20 minutes here on 3 and Out. We'll also look at Clay Helton finalizing some of his offensive staff there in Statesboro. So looking forward to that and what changes we could see there offensively for Georgia Southern. So we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. But it is 4 o'clock. Let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, Ben. Take 1. The Patriots beat the Bills Monday night, last night, by throwing just 3 passes. Could teams be successful with more run-heavy offenses in the future, or was last night a one-game exception due to the fact that the weather was awful?
The weather did get you now. You need to have Josh Allen out there trying to be arrogant, show off that can. He had Kevin. But no, I don't see it going that way, Kevin. But I will say that football is an adjustable sport. You adjust to the weather. The weather will not adjust to you. So you know that the team that adjusted to the weather was. Shout out to Jordan, Mr. Hyde, and let's take that on my first time. Don't use the word embarrassed and sports together. Players don't want to hear that stuff regardless of what it is. We didn't have you trying to show the journalism. We saw the exception last night. This is the same Patriots team that had 5 wides. So you can't go 5 wides on the side of the ball. They did the running back and they ran him back behind the quarterback so he wasn't eligible to receive. There was the playbook and there was New England's version of it. They're going to get deep into that bad. Shout out to the Patriots, by the way, to get that best record right now in the NFL.
Yeah, Bill Belichick. And again, I know a lot of folks were saying, after last year, Bill Belichick, no Tom Brady. We're seeing what happened. And again, I think Bill Belichick just sat back and said, okay. Might be some personnel issues we got to take care of, but if we do, here you go. And that's what you're seeing. Yeah, I think only running it 3 times is certainly an outlier, Ben, especially in the new age of the NFL or just football in general, where I'm not paying my quarterback $100 million to hand the ball off 47 times, right? I'm not doing it. I brought you in. And again, you would say, well, what if you win? I agree, but that's like spending $100,000 buying yourself a nice new Lambo and saying, hey, you can't take that thing over 50 miles an hour. Well, why not? Well, because you really get the best gas mileage. I have a Lambo. You want to open that thing up, right? Like if you own a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or something, you never get a speeding ticket. Why have a Lambo or right? You know what I'm saying? It's like if I'm paying my quarterback $100 million, we are throwing the football. We are throwing the football a lot. So yeah, I think that was an exception. I think there's not a lot of coaches. I think Bill Belichick is kind of like Nick Saban in that way. In that, how many coaches would say, "All right, fellas, it's nasty out. It's cold. Game plan we've come up with is we want to run the ball and we're going to run right at them and we're going to play defense and we're going to win." How many coaches would have that inside of them to do that? Much like the old saying, how many coaches are pulling their quarterback in a national championship or a Super Bowl and say, I'm going to go with the backup? Not many. Not many would do that. So I think that's just part of it's just Bill Belichick coming up with a way that nobody thought of to beat you. But you can't go to that game plan 16 weeks in a row in order to win football games. Not in today's day and age of football. Moving along, take 2. Speaking of running the football, why won't the Jags give the football to James Robinson? Probably the same reason we just talked about, but he had 1,000 yards plus as a rookie. And since then, he has just one game where he's carried the ball more than 12 times. In his last 5 games, he has not gotten it more than 12 times. What's up with that? And they should have Travis Etienne back from his torn ACL. Look, I think it's also part of the same reason. Look, I'm not going to give you the ball 12 times. One, because of that. Two, because I'm trying to see what my first-round draft pick can do. You know, if I'm Urban Meyer, your job security is tied to Trevor Lawrence. Okay. Well, if it's tied to Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to let him do his thing, right? And I think that's some of it, like we just talked about. You can't do what the Patriots did last night. Why? Because Josh Allen is on the other side, and people say, you just imagine if Buffalo just did what the Patriots did. We have Josh Allen, and you hand the ball off 40-plus times. I know it's cold. I know it's windy, but my goodness, he's our guy. Put the ball in his hands. People say this all the time. Put the ball in the hands. Let your quarterback make plays. I think that's what Jacksonville's doing. We're going to let Trevor Lawrence make plays for us. And James Robinson, we just need you to make enough plays. And we'll continue to put it into quarterback's hands. So I think that's more what it is than anything else. You just don't see teams going, our goal here is, I mean, even Kansas City, they got Pat Mahomes. They're like, if we run it more than 20 times between all of our backs, what are we doing? I think that's just the way football is played. I mean, Aaron Rodgers went to the NFC Championship game and had no running back. He had a guy with an 88 on his back playing running back, and just threw the ball around. I think that is the way football is. Even Dak is considered like a running quarterback, and people say, "Why don't you give the ball to Zeke?" Because Dak's making $100 million, and he's going to sling that thing. yeah. All right, moving along. Take 3. Matt Ryan has been hit 92 times. 92 times, the most in the league. If the Falcons just improve their offensive line, could he still be the team's quarterback for 2 or 3 plus more years?
Whew. When people start talking about Kevin, like, what is the thing with bad teams? Bad offensive line play. There's bad offensive line play, and then there's Atlanta offensive line play. We're not talking about a spring chicken here, right? We're not talking about a guy that had the Tom Brady, Benjamin Button serum at home. No. Matty Ice is that he's in the twilight of his career, and he's gotten hit that many times. So for me, Kevin, he's not going to make it because Father Time and injuries and just like getting hit, that's what makes you grow older. All I'm going to tell people is this. Did y'all see when Drew Brees played for the Saints? He was losing his hair. Y'all saw that? And you see him now on TV, boy, he got a full head up there. You know why? Because he's not getting hit anymore. So, yes, Kevin, 80 sometimes. So what does that mean? Kevin, that means it's setting up for him to have what? Well over 100 hits by the end of the season? And think about this. They're not even going to make the playoffs. So he's taking all that punishment for what? So, yeah, Kevin, I feel bad for old Matty Ice, man. Cordell Patterson, he'll get a contract extension. He better get one. But if you are Atlanta and you ask why, just look at how many times old Matty Ice is getting off the turf.
A lot. And he's done that throughout his career, but I saw that put out there today where Matt Ryan 92 times, the least, the guy hit the least. Any guesses?
Listen, I mean, a guy named Shmom of Smrady.
Yeah, Tom Brady. you want to say, man, how's that dude play? He's gonna be like getting, Social Security, but he still be playing in the league. Well,
Yep.
if you don't get hit and all you got to do is throw that thing, well, that makes a big difference. And Tom Brady, 40 quarterback hits the entire season. Matt Ryan's at 92
and counting.
Yeah, and he's still got to go 5 more games.
Listen, that's the difference in the team that's saying, hey, man, we got to protect our greatest asset because we're trying to get back to the promised land compared to, hey, man, are you good? Yeah, I'm good. No, I'm not good.
Yeah.
I don't want to get hit. Nobody wants to get hit. Just imagine getting hit, and I got a 270-pound DN barreling down on me, but Kyle Pitts just came open. That was a good catch, Kyle. and they put the camera on Matty Ice, he's getting off the ground again. And what is the offensive line doing? Stop with them lookout blocks, man. That's it. Matty Ice, man. May God bless you, man. You have given Atlanta everything you possibly can.
I'm good. I've never heard you say this before, so I'm going to assume that when you say look out, is that I don't touch anybody. You go look out. Okay, I was making sure.
Certain things are self-explanatory. You know, it's like think about this. Every time somebody yells "look out," the person who's yelling "look out" can see who's about to get hit. Usually, look out. But just imagine when it's Blue 42 huddle. Oh, look how many out. But he's looking down the field, fumble, sack, fumble. And the thing is, you got to go to the sideline and be like, listen, man, ain't no my bads, man. You got to block it, my bad, Matty Ice. Listen, they need to show how Matty Ice just makes some money through Saturday. I'm pretty sure. Listen,
how many my bads do you get a game? No, I'm serious. Like when you're in the pros, when you're in the pros in a sport like football, like I get it in the NBA. If you're like, hey, I took the 3 instead of passing, my bad. But if you're in the NFL, it's like, hey, Matty Ice, I kind of whiffed on that block. My bad. Like, how many of those can you get before you're like, I don't want to hear my bad?
This is the problem, Kevin. If the offensive line, it might be one, like, because it's 5 of y'all. I'm not giving all 5 of y'all on my bad. So it might be one. But people ask, why is holding a good thing sometimes? Because if I got to hold you to keep you from hitting, I can live with it. People go, that's a hold. Yeah. But I said, Matty, you're going to appreciate me when you go look at the tape why he was going to melee you. You were going to be baptized in the name of Jesus. So for me, I think some of this stuff is just warranted, Kevin. But no, offensive line gets one. And if you a tight end like me, well, you might hit 0 because that guy that's coming, they coming with bad intentions, ladies and gentlemen.
You ever go back to the thing to say?
No, that's when watching the tape, right? That we call that the
go
look
Steve
down.
McNair, go Steve, my bad.
No, this
my bad.
When we used to do walkthroughs and we do a blitz pickup, and just say I pick up the wrong guy, the old coordinator go, backup's in now. Why? Because the starter is out. He just got knocked out. So give my backup in. They're gonna say, are you gonna play quarterback? So listen, you got to take. Sometimes it's not about the box score, people. It's keeping the quarterback clean. You don't want this. If I'm not gonna be the reason we win, I refuse to be the reason we lose. Mark Bolger was supposed to be the starting quarterback for the greatest show on turf, but Marshall Faulk missed the block. He tore his ACL. Then they went on to Kurt Warner. So Marshall Faulk better be lucky a Hall of Famer was behind Mark Bolger because it could have got much ugly for them St. Louis Rams back in the day.
That's take 3. We do it each and every day. This time we'll come back. We'll switch gears. We're talking with a little Gators football with David Waters of Gators Breakdown when we return, and Billy Napier's first couple of days on the job. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Back here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us. College coaching carousel has been absolutely wild and crazy. And Billy Napier in there at the University of Florida. He certainly hit the ground running. And joining us here from Gators Breakdown, David Waters joins us here on 3 and Out. David, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on and joining us, man. Billy Napier obviously has come in, hit the ground running, and a lot of talk about upping the budget. How important was that to Billy Napier to come in and say, listen, if we're going to compete with the Georgias and the Alabamas and the SEC, obviously we got to recruit better. We got to spend a little more money and time in the recruiting area, but we also got to dole out a little bit more money for the staff, for the analysts, et cetera. How important of a get was that for Billy Napier, that commitment to more funds, more resources in recruiting and coaching?
Yeah, I mean, we see it play out on the field. The last few years in the SEC, we saw it Saturday night when Alabama and Georgia are playing in the SEC championship, and it makes, those are the two teams that are consistently doing it. Florida did hold that place last year, but recent history shows us it's Alabama and Georgia, and no mistake about it. They spend a whole lot of money. They spend a whole lot of money on staff. They spend a whole lot of money in recruiting budget, and it pays off for those two schools. So that's why they're in Atlanta more times often than not recently. So Florida needed to do the same thing. Everybody needs to be on the same page. Everybody needs to be looking at what it needs to take, or what it takes to get to that level of an Alabama and a Georgia consistently. And a lot of it starts with that the budget that you get for assistant coaches, and Florida's going to give him $7.5 million, and that's right up there with Alabama and Georgia in the last couple of years. I think Bama was 7.8 last year. Georgia was 7.2 in 2020. So it's in that range to go get you some good assistants, but also go build an army of assistants, go build an army of analysts, go build an army of recruiting staff that can go up there and use that private jet that he's going to have access to as well, and go out there and recruit for Florida. So everybody needed to be on the same page. Everybody needed to kind of regroup, figure out what is needed for Florida to be up there at that top level in college football. And it starts with just some of the behind the scenes demands that really needed to be made for Florida to go to maybe bought themselves back up into that conversation at the top of the SEC.
David, a holdover from the previous staff. A lot of times people be thinking it has to be a guy that's, offensive, defensive side of the ball. But Vernell Brown, former Florida, a cornerback, obviously, had tremendous success as a player. Retaining him, as far as like a player personnel guy, how big was that? Because you want to be able to have somebody that resonates with today's player that doesn't really have anything to do with the X and O's. How great of is that with, a guy like Vernell Brown gonna still be around old Gainesville?
Yeah, man, you spoke to it, man. It's a relationship that I think will make the transition a bit easier. And as you said, there's not going to be any holdovers. Christian Robinson, the linebacker coach, there's still maybe an outside chance he's retained. But from what I'm hearing, he likely will not be. So there will be no staff members, on-field staff members from Dan Mullen's staff and Vernell Brown behind the scenes. As you said, the relationship with the players, player personnel, player relationship, helping them with the NIL that's out there as well. Yeah, so he's a friendly face that will be there. As you said, Ben, from that area, played at Florida, knows the state very well, knows recruits that's out there that visit campus as well for Florida. So even recruits know him as well. So I think that speaks to some familiarity with the current players and the recruits that are out there that would be making their way to campus coming up for Florida this weekend. But I think it was important there for at least some familiar voice. While it may not be on field, there might be more interaction with Vernell Brown off the field than any on-field coach anyway. So it makes this transition just a little bit easier for Florida.
David Waters, Gators Breakdown, joining us here on 3 and Out. And you look around the SEC, you got several new coaches in there who have hit the ground running. And, essentially Billy Napier gets 10, 11 days to try to get something done before early signing period for the new coaches, Billy Napier, Brian Kelly. How much can you get done in 10 days as far as going out and recruiting a guy to come join you and get him in the early signing period?
Yeah, that's the big question now, and he's going to be patient with it. And you can even go back to his time at Louisiana. His first year there, it was a little different now. It was in 2018. It was his first season there, but it was also the first day, or the first year, the first recruiting cycle of early signing day. And so I think there was a lot of figuring out going on for him being the brand new head coach and that new element of recruiting as well. He did not sign, and on purpose now, he did not sign one early signee back in his time at Louisiana in that first class. He took his time. He went and evaluated players, and he's doing the same thing with Florida. But Florida's already got some commits that are there that want to early enrollee, so there won't be the same situation where he won't sign any, but it does let you know he's going to preach patience. It does let you know that he's going to use patience in evaluating some of these commits that Florida has as well. And look, today and yesterday went out, recruited, went out and hit the road, visited 2 top 100 running backs in the state of Louisiana where he just came from. Also a top 100 defensive lineman in Quincy Wiggins, and then also a defensive tackle commit, Chris McClellan, out there in Oklahoma yesterday. So he recruited that area that he knows better, but also today went and visited quarterback commit Nick Evers, and then former linebacker commit Shamar James in the state of Alabama. So I do think, if those guys are committed and they're willing to go ahead and sign with Florida on early signing day, he'll allow some of them, but he did say, yeah, he's going to be patient. There's some of these commits out there for Florida right now. They still haven't heard from this new Gator staff. So you can tell not everybody is going to be coming over whether you were committed to Florida or not.
Nick Savage, former, strength and conditioning coach. I know a lot of people thinking that he was going to be retained, but Mark Hawk comes over from Louisiana with, Coach Napier. Just talk about him and talk about how fast he got in, because people be forgetting the guy who really knows the players better than the trainers, better than the assistant coaches, will be the strength and conditioning coach. Talk about Mark Hawk, and obviously that beer game, D. Waters, is serious.
It is serious, man. I guess that's a prerequisite for a lot of these strength coaches, right? You got to have this big old beard and that look. But Mark Hawk comes over from Louisiana with Billy Napier. He brought 2 on-field assistants that are from Louisiana, but also his strength and conditioning coordinator is going to be coming with him as well. But he was part of that 2009 Alabama staff as well, as strength and conditioning there. Nick Saban's first national championship team at Alabama. He comes from that. He made stops at some other colleges as well. University of Georgia in 2015. He was there, so that would have been Bart Ricks last year, if I'm not mistaken. He would have been strength and conditioning coach there at Georgia. Also spent some time at Texas A&M as well. So well versed in the SEC at Alabama, Georgia, and Texas A&M. But he's been with Napier all 4 years, and I had a friend of mine, Josh, from the Raging Review podcast on last week, and he called this one. He said, "Look, Billy Napier is going to want this guy to come with him. There's a relationship there. He trusts him. Do not be surprised if this is going to be one of his first hires made." And it absolutely was. And Ben, you saw it on social media last week. The current Florida players love Nick Savage. There was a little campaign to keep Nick Savage, but Billy Napier feels comfortable in bringing his own strength and conditioning coordinator in.
David Waters, Gators Breakdown, joining us now. Florida in a pre-Christmas bowl. David, there against Central Florida. What do you expect there? Because obviously it's just after the early signing period. Obviously Billy Napier is not going to coach in that situation, but you have guys opting out, guys hit the transfer portal. What really can you expect there from the Gasparilla Bowl there from Florida on December 23rd?
Yeah, hope another game where your state pride comes into play like it did against FSU in Florida's last game of the season, and Florida ends up winning that game. But I think what we can look for is that we're hearing some whispers and some rumblings there that Anthony Richardson is trying to get that injury cleaned up a little bit, so he'll probably be out of the bowl game with the meniscus work being done. Emory Jones will probably start the bowl game, so that probably kills some of the excitement from some of the Gator fans after what we saw Anthony Richardson do in making sure Florida wins that game versus FSU last week. So look for Emory Jones to start the game. And we'll see. There hasn't been any word of holdouts like somebody maybe like a Zach Carter or Kyer Elam, guys who have NFL in their future. No word if they're going to skip this bowl game or not. So until we get that, I still think a lot of players that we know for Florida will be out there on that field. But UCF will probably be ready for it as well. They lost Dylan Gabriel, their quarterback, earlier in the year, and then I think Gus Malzahn is really going to attack this game. His first year as UCF head coach, if he could end it, no matter what situation Florida's in now. If he can end that first season saying, "All right, we beat Florida, we can end our season on a good note." Even with this skeleton staff, we don't even know who Florida's going to have on the coaching staff out there, of course, the leftovers from Dan Mullen's staff. So we'll kind of have to see where Florida's head is at mentally, where Florida's coaching staff's head is at mentally, to see how they attack this game. But you hope one last time to go out there, play for those seniors, play for that state pride since they're playing the in-state team.
I mean, what is the move? What is the move right now around Gainesville, Dave? You know, just like I know. I mean, it's hot and cold all the time. We live and die with each Saturday, but we're going to make a bowl game as Kevin mentioned against UCF. Billy Napier, the new head coach. I mean, you guys. It seems to be a lot of positive momentum going around with a guy, Billy Napier, who seems to roll to the beat of his own drum, not to seem too high and too low. And I saw him say something like, "The players are not going to like me all the time, but I'm gonna make sure these guys understand, what the standard is, and getting back to that winning standard."
Yeah, Ben, that team meeting the other day wasn't necessarily a kumbaya moment. I think it was going to be a wake-up call for a lot of those guys, especially after what they faced this past season. And it wasn't easy, and there was not a lot of accountability on the team, really. When things were going bad, you still had some of the same players out there, no matter the mistakes that were made at the end of 2020, the mistakes that were made in 2021. So I think Billy Napier's approach needs to be that hard, tough love approach. And as he said, he's got to earn their respect, and that reciprocates. It goes the other way as well. So a lot of respect needs to be gained from both sides when Florida steps in that practice field in just a couple months of spring practice. But a lot of evaluation going on, Ben. But as you said, a lot of excitement, mainly for the new coaching staff. Not necessarily about the bowl game. Everybody's kind of looking forward now. Yeah, you got this bowl game. You'll play it. You cheer for your Gators. But everybody's looking ahead to next season or spring practice, getting that part of it started and looking ahead to next season and what Billy Napier could also do in the recruiting trail in between those times.
David Waters, Gators Breakdown, joining us. David, finally, before we let you go, away from Florida football, man, give us your thoughts on those Final Four in the college football playoff. A lot of folks saying, look, this was an easy Final Four to call in terms of the committee, but how do you think this thing's going to play out? Are we just, a lot of people think guaranteed for a rematch. Do you see it going that way?
I am picking a rematch, but I'm ready to see what Georgia does mentally after Saturday night. So much riding on that game. Everybody thought it was the chance for Georgia to finally beat Alabama, get over that hurdle, and a lot of the just kind of played out the way it has been lately. So where is Georgia at mentally? There's of course going to be a lot of talk about the defense and not showing up in that game, and the quarterback between Bennett and JT Daniels as well. So a lot of all the questions that we didn't hear about Georgia, or we're now hearing after the SEC championship game. So where are they at mentally? I think if they go out there and play their game, they can still beat Michigan. The other side of it, Alabama, to me, should handle Cincinnati if they play anything like they did this past Saturday in the SEC championship game. But if Bama doesn't put their best performance together, and Cincinnati did get better as the season went on, if Bama played like they did versus Auburn, Cincinnati plays one of their best games, maybe slim chance of an upset there. But I, in the end, do think it will be an Alabama-Georgia national championship game. And until Georgia beats Alabama, I'll pick Alabama to hoist that trophy one more time.
And everybody in the SEC just shakes their head if that happens and says, good grief. But David Waters, our guest here at Gators Breakdown, joining us. Appreciate the time, David. Thanks much.
Thanks, guys.
David Waters joining us here on 3 and Out. So much more to get to here on the program. Bowl games coming up a week from Friday. That's right around the corner as well. In college football. When we come back, we're looking at Georgia Southern. We talked about Billy Napier putting his staff together, Clay Helton doing that at Georgia Southern. He's had some time to work towards that. We'll get to that next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to be here with you on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And been so much about the coaching around college football, but this is the key moments, right, of the college football season. And you look at Clay Helton going out and getting those assistants, guys who can go out there, hit that recruiting trail. And, of course, the big hire, Western Kentucky's Brian Ellis in as the offensive coordinator. We talked about that. Western Kentucky's leading receiver would have broken career records almost in yards, but in passing and receptions would have broken career records at Georgia Southern in one season with the season he had this last year. So I think that gives you an idea of what Clay Helton's looking at. They're going to throw the football. Certainly they're going to run it, but it probably will not be anywhere close to the manner in which they have done it in the past. What do you kind of get the sense that Georgia Southern offense might look like now with Clay Helton, with Brian Ellis coming in? It could be something we haven't really seen before with this Georgia Southern team. So I don't even know if you could say when they had Chris Hatcher running the air raid.
Yeah.
I think it might be just a little different from that.
It might be. I mean, well, Kevin, you know, just like I know, whatever you want to run the option, whatever you want to run a triple, you got to have a certain type of player to do it, and you got to be dedicated to it. Like, and the thing about that type of offense is, let's face it, you must expect to be ahead in every game, because if you're not, it gets you away from it. That's something. The option is something where when it's working and it's clicking, you go back to, I mean, early 90s, with Tommy Frazier and those guys, they did it better. That's the best I've ever seen it done. But I think what Coach Helton is really doing is he said, I don't want to limit myself in recruiting, man. We run spread offenses now, whether you're in high school, college, pro, you want to run spread. Now, I don't think it's going to be the air raid, Kevin, but anything throwing the football around in Georgia Southern going to be the air raid, because you ain't seen that in a long time. So I think what Coach Helton's understanding is, I know what type of athletes are out there. I know what type of athletes I can't even recruit if we run in the same offense we was running. I know how it opens up recruiting. And Kevin, like you said, how much more dangerous is Georgia Southern when they're running similar offenses to those teams in their conference? You look at Louisiana, even though Billy Napier's moved on, they want to be more of a balanced team. You look at Appalachian State, they want to be more of a balanced team. You look at Coastal Carolina and Georgia State. Balance on offense makes it so much better. Now, Kevin, I'm not saying it's going to be a beautiful thing to watch in 2021, because you are adjusting to something new. So you're going to go through some growing pains. But Kevin, how crazy is it going to be when we're looking at the Sun Belt standards as far as like offense, and we got a Georgia Southern quarterback up there as far as like, passing stats. BJ loved the pass attempts per throw. But I just think that, Kevin, it's really, I don't want to call it the dark ages, but you don't want to have an offense that only 2 or 3 teams in college football is running. Because while you can have success, what happens when you get down by 10, down by double digits? I think they kind of go into more what is better. I'd rather take a quarterback that's in a system that I'm already running and tell him, hey, man, listen, can you run that route? Because you're going to be running it a lot. Quarterback efficiency is going to be the name of the game, but I think, Kevin, they want to get to more of a wide-open offense, a more balanced offense. And dare I say, if Georgia Southern is coming out there, because they're going to still get running backs, they're going to still run the football, but they don't want the passing game to be a liability. Because let's face it, Georgia Southern last couple of years, people talk about how great, how great the quarterbacks have been in the past.
Yeah.
They only throwing the ball 2 and 3 and 4 times a game. So I think that now more, I think it's going to be more 60-40, still going to lean more to the run, but you're going to add more 40, maybe even 50-50 with the pass. Kevin, how much better is Clayton offense going to be with Georgia Southern, and how much pressure does that put on the App States, the Louisianas, the Georgia States, and the Coastal Carolinas? Because if you can't compete with them, I don't care how good your offense is, you don't want to get run off the field. So I just think that Coach Helton is saying, look, man, I'm going to go with what's worked for me. I've been to California. I'm from Gainesville. I went to Auburn. I'm back in the Southeast. I want to be able to recruit any and everybody. And when having this type of offense, I think he has no limitations.
Yeah, I think you put pressure offensively onto, and I think you look at what was Georgia Southern's downfall a little bit here with Chad Lunsford in this last season. Defensively, they had some breakdowns. They had some guys get hurt. I know they were had an all-conference corner that got hurt early in the season, but I think their offense just could not score enough. And we'll see what Coach Helton kind of does at the quarterback position. You got Cam Ransom. I know he's out there actively recruiting quarterbacks right now. And I think quarterbacks, as we're seeing at Georgia and other places, even Alabama, with as deep as they got. When you think you got a quarterback, go get another one. When you think you got like starting pitching, you think you got enough starting pitching, go get another pitcher. When you think you got enough quarterbacks, so Clay Helton out there obviously going to go out and recruit some quarterbacks. But I think this team offensively needs to be a dangerous team offensively because at times you see it in the Sun Belt a lot in some conferences like that, especially in the mid-major level. You're going to win games 45-42. Even at that level, the days of winning 24-21 or scoring 17 and thinking that's going to be enough, probably not going to get it done.
And Kevin, too, it kind of, you go back to the SEC championship game, people kept talking about how was it going to be with Georgia and Alabama, right? Well, Alabama offense knew, dude, you know how much better it makes a defense when your offense is clicking? It makes it so that you don't even know how good or bad your defense is because the opposing defense can't get off the field because our offense is scoring points. Georgia Southern is going to play good defense. That has never been something that worries you. What did worry you, Kevin, is what you just mentioned. If they getting 3 and out and an offense that doesn't push the ball down the field, that's momentum based. I mean, when you run, there's a putting defensive lineman on the ground, staying ahead of the change, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2s. Every time Georgia Southern didn't do 2 things. Whenever they didn't rush for 200 yards, which, good Lord, think about that being the standard. I got to rush for 200. We are whatever and but then if we 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, and we got to drop back and throw it, those receivers, it's not that they can't separate. You asking me to block 80% of the time, and then when you need me to make a play, they're going to give me one-on-one, but that don't mean but it's 50-50 ball. So I think it makes everybody better, Kevin. I do think that quarterback room is going to be different because you're going to be staring at a quarterback that was built for a different system.
Yep.
Hopefully that hoping that their talent translate to the new system of people. For everybody thinking they're getting done wrong, if you're already at Georgia Southern, stay and compete and see what type of player you can become. Because I'm telling y'all, the last time we may hear from you is if you take your name and put it in that transfer portal. It is getting bigger by the second. Stick around and see what happens, man, because if you've already been on campus, some of you already talked about, if you have adjusted to college and college football, you are at an advantage of a guy who hasn't been there because the learning curve from high school and college is astronomical. I mean, sometimes guys just never, ever get it, even if you got the athletic ability. But Coach Helton, you knew he was coming in with a new regime, and dare I say, they finna air that thing out in Statesboro.
Yeah, Arkansas State's Ryan Applin comes in as tight ends coach, inside wide receivers coach, passing game coordinator, and also hired Michigan State's Ephraim Reed as the running backs coach. I believe he was an analyst there for Michigan State this past season. So he comes in to help out on the offensive side of the ball. And so starting to put together that offense. You can tell what's important. Most of the hires we've been hearing about are on that offensive side. You kept Kevin Whitley to run the DBs and coach on the defense side. Outside of that, we've been waiting to hear. It's all offense. We're going to get that shored up there at Georgia Southern. We got more to come here. It's 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're streaming live at ESPNCoastal.com. Welcome back to 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. And BJ Bennett not here with us, but he did put a note in today's rundown. Said, I want Ben to congratulate Florida State on something. It's women's soccer. They won the national championship.
I mean, look, shout out to the Lady Seminoles for winning the college. I don't even know what you call it. The college soccer. They won the national championship. BJ does this on purpose. Anybody who knows, listen, we all have things that we enjoy. BJ is a lover of all things Florida State. He will rub it in my face that Florida State just won another national championship. And then Kevin hit him with the in what? In soccer. Oh, okay. And I'm like, BJ, who's the best soccer player? He'll go, oh, there's a young lady from Brazil who, yeah, okay. Give me an international player. Who's their second best player? You don't know because you didn't watch, but shout out to those Lady Seminoles for getting it done. BJ is quick to throw it up in your face. But at the end of the day, we know, BJ knows, Florida State men's basketball is not winning a national championship. And Kevin, you know the moniker, right? Oh, and who was getting ready to win the ACC championship and win the I said, they probably would have could have won the ACC championship, the tournament, them versus Clemson. I don't know about that winning it all, something we've never seen, but shout out to the Lady Seminoles soccer team for hoisting up another championship, another national championship. So shout out to them.
Does BJ know who they played?
Hey,
Do you know who they played?
No, BJ.
I don't even.
No. BJ only knows who they played because Mama Bennett probably told him, because I do know last year they lost in a shootout. The lady who took off her jersey when the U.S. women's national team, it's like super, like in the early 90s. Yeah, her
so famous we don't know her name.
So famous we do not know her name, but she is etched in USA Olympics history. But no, last year they lost in penalty kicks. And BJ was like, do you know how we got the best? We got the best soccer team in the country. I said, okay, BJ.
It was Brandy Chastain.
Hey, Brandy Chastain, yes. So shout out to Brandy. I apologize for not knowing, but she was actually at the game. It was her alma mater, and they beat Florida State last year in the penalty kick. But they got back to their winning ways. So all right, BJ, you got it. Now, I will give a shout out to those to the men's basketball team when they win it all. That will be in February, but we will wait around and see.
Yeah. BJ tries to sneak stuff in there.
That's BJ for you, right, Kevin? He's quick to sneak something in, and it's what?
He will let you know every bad highlight you've ever had. Then what happened when?
No. Not only will he let you know every bad highlight, nothing is. Listen, people, if you've ever told BJ something in secret, you better get an NDA or something signed, because BJ will mention it on the air and hit you with the what? I wasn't supposed to say that. I said that in confidence. I said, listen, statute of limitations, you go to Kevin. NDAs, you need those for BJ. And, when it come to Cam, hey, man, listen. Mr. Steal Your Girl is Cam Ursary. So I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying.
Now you can't.
What did they say? What they say on the radio? Listen, man, we have fun on the show. This is a family show. Just keeping it a buck.
Yeah, Cam's he's gonna leave the show. He's like, I don't even know why I got drug into that. I was sitting there minding my own business, running the show, and all of a sudden,
what?
Yeah,
Cam will go home and be like, hey, listen, we just was getting through a segment, so we don't take that stuff serious.
Yeah, exactly. We got more to get to coming up. Final hour of the program. We'll look at bowl season coming up. Where's some of the good ones at?
Yeah.
That we are talking about. We'll also look at what Georgia's got to do here between now and the Orange Bowl. We have asked a lot of folks about that question. It was tough because, again, I think the mood of the fan base, and again, Ben has been quick to point out difference between fan base and a team, but a lot of expectation that mountain was going to get climbed, and it didn't. Final hour next. Good to have you back here. 3 and Out. Final hour of the show. So much to get to here as we'll look at the Orange Bowl upcoming, which is round 1 or the semifinal of the college football playoff as well. But Ben, it is bowl season coming up for everybody else. For Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, and Cincinnati, it's the playoffs. For everybody else, it's bowl season, which starts a week from Friday. Yes, we will have bowls a week from Friday out there for you to consume and let the madness begin there. But wanted to get kind of your thoughts, my thoughts on what are the bowl games that we are actually looking most forward to. I know I've been on record saying I don't like the fact there's too many bowl games, the fact that we just made one up so we could get all the bowl eligible teams in. Not a fan of that, but that doesn't mean there's not compelling matchups that have been put together there in bowl season that I'm not interested, that I am interested in coming up. I will say that I did mine, Ben. I excluded the playoffs because obviously I think the playoffs just in and of itself are interesting. Yeah. So my list didn't take that into effect. So if you're like, hey, Kevin did his list and he didn't say Georgia, Michigan. No, just like, I think that goes without saying. Also, all mine, when it comes back to me, Ben, are non-playoff games. But the 5 bowl games you are most interested in are what?
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with you, Kevin. I think that the playoffs kind of like speak for themselves, especially when you talk about you got 3 tradition-rich programs like Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, and then you got obviously the upstart in a sense of most people, even though they've been here a couple of years, Cincinnati. But my top 5 bowls, number 5 is the Outback Bowl. I think it's Big Ten versus the good old SEC again. This year is Penn State or Arkansas. Old Coach Franklin, old Sam Pittman. We'll see what happens because Penn State needs to be waving the flag for the Big Ten because obviously, the one thing old Coach Bob Stoops hates more than anything else, even though he's in the Big 12, he can't stand, the old SEC. They think they get too much pub. My number 4, my number 3 is the Alamo Bowl. I think Oregon versus Oklahoma. I mean, you got Oregon, who got interim head coach, Brian Mcclendon, former offensive coordinator for the South Carolina Gamecocks, obviously the son of Willie Mcclendon, and Oklahoma. I mean, Brent Venables finally got out of got from up under Dabo Swinney. I mean, listen, that money they was throwing at him. I mean, he had to finally go ahead and make it happen. My number 3, the Mayo Bowl. UNC versus USC. Mac Brown, Sam Howell, versus Beamer Ball. I mean, look, if you go to South Carolina and North Carolina already don't like each other, bordering states. That's why they got the Carolina Panthers, which represents both states. But I think this is the game to where I think 2 years ago, I think USC played UNC the first game of the year in Bank of America Stadium. My son was there. He told me it was a great game. My number 2, Gator Bowl. I want to see Texas A&M versus Wake. I think that Jimbo Fisher got to find a way to go out with a bang. Wake, Sam Hartman and what he was able to do this year. Kevin never, ever got the respect he earned not because of him, but because of where he played. Wake Forest, Demon Deacs, they're never, ever going to be the class of the ACC, even if they were one of the best teams in the ACC, obviously lost to Pitt in the ACC championship game. And my number 1, Celebration Bowl. Look, when you think about HBCUs and you think about the fact that they always scratch in the corner and say, look at us, South Carolina State, with a Wake South Carolina State near and dear to me when I was back, 16, 17 years old, getting in the recruiting circuit, guy by the name of Coach Buddy Pugh. He was then on the staff at South Carolina under Lou Holtz. He is now the head coach for South Carolina State. And if you look at the job that Deion Sanders has done at Jackson State, I do love Jackson State. I mean, I'm super duper proud of Deion Sanders and the attention he's bringing to HBCUs. You got him versus Coach Buddy Pugh. You talk about Eddie George, now the head coach at Tennessee State. So, Kevin, for me, I'm blessed enough to go to the Celebration Bowl 2 years ago with North Carolina A&T versus Alcorn State. But Deion Sanders says give him a year. The only game they lost, Louisiana Monroe, ran through the SWAC conference, so it should be a great game. So, you talk about the Celebration Bowl, you talk about the Gator Bowl, you talk about the Alamo Bowl, you talk about the Mayo Bowl, and obviously ending up with that Outback Bowl. And obviously people are going to say, well, Ben, what about the Asperilla Bowl? I'm going to watch Florida versus UCF. And to the UCF fans, stop saying that Florida is ducking y'all. That kind of stuff is ridiculous. But if that's going to be y'all narrative, so be it.
All right. Those are good ones. I got my number 5. Most interesting bowl game, not called the college football playoff. I'm going to the New Orleans Bowl, Louisiana versus Marshall. And you go, what's the big deal there? 2 future conference opponents, playing one another. And how do you start rivalries? With stuff like this. Something strange could happen. I know Billy Napier's gone. I think Marshall has got either a young head coach or going in there. Something weird happens. You have an automatic rivalry game coming up in a couple seasons when Marshall jumps into the Sun Belt. So I love games like this when it's like, hey, normally it'd just be a game. You say, who cares? These two teams, if it's like 42-38, something crazy happens late, don't think these guys won't remember that when they become
Absolutely.
conference members here, and potentially it's an every year game, or could be a future Sun Belt Conference Championship game. Could be a lot of intrigue there early. My number 4 is the Gasparilla Bowl, Ben, Central Florida and Florida. Why? Because Florida's ducking. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was going to say, but because there was these two teams allegedly wanted to play in the regular season, and they never could figure it out whether it was going to be a home and home or no, we're not going to Orlando. Whatever it is, that makes it interesting to me. If Central Florida wins, I know it's.
Oh my God! If Central Florida wins, I'm gonna have to listen to the fans. But either way, and I will say this: I don't want to hear who's not playing. If Zach Ricardo playing the Kyrie Elam, Florida will be playing them UCF Knights. So Brandon Marshall, anybody with them UCF Knights, you want to bet? I got $5 on the game.
You think Billy Napier will be like, they're out there with the B team?
Exactly.
So, no, you're not going to say no.
Yeah, he allowed to say that nonsense.
No, I would say, but look, so I think from that standpoint, that's a fun one to watch because those two teams will not play in the regular season, not because there's not a want to, but because it's not to the other one's terms, right?
Exactly.
Hey, we'll play you. Come to Gainesville. Nope. How about we come to Orlando, play neutral site? Nope. How about we do home and home? Nope. Well, we're not going to Gainesville twice. Well, then we're not playing.
Exactly.
I think that brings some intrigue.
We went to USF this year, and USF's coming to Florida next year. So Scott Strickland, I love the pettiness in you, sir. Keep being petty.
Hey, there you go. Duke's Mayo Bowl, my number 3. North Carolina, South Carolina. It's a border rivalry. Not really a traditional rivalry, but it's if you want to talk about pettiness. These are the two teams that go back and forth in this game. It's like, oh, we can wear Carolina on our shirt. We're the real Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do you remember that stuff? It's like, no, you need to put South Carolina because we are the real Carolina. No, you need to put.
It should be a good listen.
Yeah,
this is ACC versus SEC's finest, I think.
Yeah, I think that'll be a fun one to watch. My number 2, the Alamo Bowl, Oregon against Oklahoma. You got Bob Stoops back. Can we get Mike Bellotti coming back? Just an interim. I mean, I know Coach McClendon is now the interim, but hey, why not? Mike Bellotti's like, let's relive the late 1990s. Why not?
Let's live the glory days.
Yeah. So come back, both 2 teams with interim coaches, 2 teams that had playoff aspirations, 2 teams that are looking for the different direction that they are going. I think this could be actually a fun ball game with Oregon and Oklahoma there, just because of all the chaos going on around both of those programs here within the last 2 to 3 weeks. And my number 1, the Sugar Bowl, Baylor and Ole Miss. It will be 49-48. There will be so many points, I think, scored in this ball game that it should be a lot of fun to watch. Now, I know Baylor kind of D'd up when it mattered against Oklahoma State, but nobody really has slowed down Ole Miss that much. And I think you're talking about top 8, top 9 teams.
Yeah.
When they play in the Sugar Bowl, that is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of offense in that football game. And for a non-playoff game, that's one you want to circle and say, let me check out that Sugar Bowl, and that's number 1 on my list.
I mean, Kevin.
And then there's a lot of bad. Let's talk about a lot of bad ones.
Yeah, it's too many bad ones. The name when BJ was going through so many bowls, I was like, good Lord. Have they even picked the no-name bowl?
I'm trying to think what it is because I never saw the release of what the name was going to be. So I'm sure it's out there because you have the bowl matchup set, but I have no clue as to what it is.
I mean, should they just keep it at the no-name bowl game? I mean, just keep it that way because Kevin, sometimes we just listen. The Asperilla Bowl used to be the B4 Brady's Bowl, and one of the players for Florida said, "Do we get to go to Outback?" No, why? Because that's called the Outback Bowl. Wait a minute. Yes, I mean the two are different, but we playing in Tampa. Yeah, you can have a bowl game in the same city. It is okay to do it. It is fine. I mean, the Tampa Bay Rays playing St. Pete. The New York Jets, the New York Giants, they play in New Jersey. It happens. So, yes, Kevin, I mean, the no-name bowl game shows that, look, sometimes we want to make sure that everybody feels the love. They did get in. We just didn't have a game or city ready for them. But the bowl game is always the time, to spend some time in the city to, get more to your philanthropic type aspirations if you do indeed have those. And it's a time to just, spend some time with the fans, man. I mean, the people that make the game what it is, good or bad, I think it's time to just be around those guys.
What else is it time for?
Time to get a little cheese.
Time for the goodie bags and the grab bags. Yeah.
I mean,
let's be real.
I mean, it's a part on Jerry Maguire. We was looking at Jerry. We gotta look at him like this. I don't want to hear, what's up, Jerry? No, can I get some of that cheese? And listen. We don't deal with checks. We don't deal with cash apps. We deal with cold, hard cash. I'll take that cash. I don't remember how much money I got in those bowl games. I do remember this. I remember getting that little envelope with the money in it, going to the mall, getting right, and like, dang. Hey, man, when we get some money in 2 days? I done spent already. So, hey, man, shout out to everybody that made the bowl game, man. It is a celebration of the season that was. But yes, Kevin, Baylor and Ole Miss. Listen, if you're on defense, just take the day off because it's gonna be high scoring.
Might not be one to put on the resume tape if you're trying to get to the next level.
Hey, man, it should be. Listen, Ole Miss, come out with the powder blues, man. If you're gonna be good, listen, good weather inside the dome. Go out there and make it happen in good old New Orleans.
All right, Ben. Honestly, and again, obviously, I made a joke about the the gift bags. That's kind of a big deal. And maybe it's not as big a deal across the board because of the NIL stuff that's out there. But I feel like back in the day, it was like, hey, here's a little flat screen or maybe an Xbox or a PlayStation 5. But now I think a lot of those guys have that kind of stuff. What's the gift that you want if you go to the bowl game?
Well, I mean, think about this, Kevin.
Watches.
But
cash.
I will say this. Me personally, I'm there for the cold hard cash, giving them greenbacks, giving them ducats. But I think what happens is, Kevin, think about this. That's the perception battle. Everybody think these college kids. We hit the NILs. That's still a very, 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 very limited amount of student athletes. Most guys ain't got a dime. You get some gifts. Hey man, those gifts you can put them in a gift. You can wrap them up. Those become great, great stocking stuff for your family members. Because what it's about, you see the family members, wearing the stuff, so you get all the. All the apparel, all the free stuff. That's the kind of stuff you
got your
away.
Outback Bowl polo. Where's that at?
Man, I had I don't know what happened. I had a Sugar Bowl Letterman jacket. It was nice, man. It was all black and the thing is, one of my cousins around here got it. They gonna make sure not wear it in front of me. But Kevin, from the tell my age, that's when listen, I got good old DVD player, good old. Now this what made me mad though. My senior year. It was a choice between the Outback and the Peach Bowl, right? My coach said, "Thought y'all boys wanted to go to Tampa." We was in Tampa last year. Like we live in Gainesville, Florida. We could drive to Tampa. And listen, we get off the plane, get off the bus or whatever in Tampa. All the my junior year, all the Michigan guys, they getting out with camcorders like this. I said, what? Once again, Coach, I didn't think y'all wanted that. Coach, have you met us? Like, why are y'all not picking the best stuff? This thing, though, Kevin, even though I only went to the SEC championship game, I said, boy, you getting rings? I said, this stuff here is nice. So I will say, Kevin, because you want to roll out the red carpet, if we had a 3-and-out ESPN Coastal Bowl game, this is the thing. You're going to get everybody in this general vicinity wanting to give us stuff to cater to the players. And the people that's putting it on, they get that stuff too. So we think it's all about the cash, but I'm just saying, man, some gift card apparel, some gift cards here, Kevin, some flat. Listen, everybody will take a flat screen. They're like, hey, man, who them 75 inches for? That's for y'all. Y'all got to get, I can get it back to Gville. Now I can have, so it is about the gifts though, Kevin, because I tell you what, for every team that made it, there's a bunch of teams that didn't. So don't think that it's about the game. I get it, but I want that cash. I want that free stuff. And who knows, man? Some of these guys, they're going to play their last game. You could be potentially walking into, a potential like sponsor. That could be somebody giving you a job. So you might want to be on your best behavior because you might be walking out of Florida and all these places, walking into a new job, which ain't nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah. What's the best thing you did not football related around the bowl game? I know. Obviously, there's usually a trip to visit some children and some the philanthropic stuff, but also they've had like team bowling nights and things like that. What was something like that?
I went when we went to New Orleans. We got to go to the Children's Hospital down there, and I was just a freshman then. My sophomore year, we was in the Orange Bowl, and the Spurrier was like, "Hey, man, we going to the Children's Hospital." I got to go to the Children's Hospital, and I got to do Read to America, and I just really, really liked it. Obviously, I'm really young, 19 years old. I'm trying to figure life out, but it's fun because you think you know how much people love college football. It's half you, as you say, Kevin. It's half me, half the brand. People love it. They love it. And we down there in South Florida, and people's loving it. So for me, it really, really, sparked something in me, man, that never left. I mean, I never ever thought I would be doing philanthropic stuff, not volunteer stuff now, but that stuff got cemented when I was in college. So, hey, man, take full advantage of it. And I will say this, and my teammates can appreciate this. It's not going to be a line fighting trying to go to them hospitals because certain guys, they so focused on the game. But, hey, man, I got to go to Tampa twice, got to go to Ybor City. But, twice. But I got to go to South Florida. Got a chance to go to New Orleans, Kevin. And like I said, a country boy like me, man, I'm like most. If I would have never played no college football, ain't no planes, ain't no airports, but it's fun, man. You get to discover something bigger than and I got to get on the jet ski the first time when I was in Miami, and I didn't know they had like police on the water. Man, I'm about to hit. All of a sudden the police come and say, "What you stop?" And I'm like, I said, "You the police?" He said, "Yeah, you about to get a ticket," and you can see like sprinting. I don't know. So. Hey, man, got a chance to do some incredible stuff, man. So I would say just enjoy. I wasn't playing as much. The guys that don't play as much have way more fun than the guys who do. So I would say I wasn't playing as much then. So I got a chance to enjoy the city a little bit more.
A little less business trip on those occasions. We've got more to come here. 3 and Out. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Love to hear from you. You can also share a comment on Facebook or our YouTube page and join us there as we are across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, streaming live on ESPNCosta.com and live video streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Georgia coming off the tough loss in the SEC championship game, getting ready for Michigan in the Orange Bowl. Ben, obviously we talked about the talking points. And again, you can say there's a difference in fans and program. Kirby Smart was not saying that, obviously. But from the fan base, from the national media, it was, now's the time. Georgia's looked so good, time to climb the mountain and get over Alabama. Not only did not happen, they lost by multiple scores, gave up an all-time performance to Bryce Young in the SEC championship game. What do they need to do between now and the Orange Bowl to kind of get that back? Is it look at the quarterback? Is it pass rush? What is it that they need to focus on between now and that semifinal game?
Well, the easiest answer that question themselves. Like, take a deep breath. First, just take a deep breath. Look at who you lost against. When people say things like, "Oh, Georgia lost to Alabama," how many teams say that? A bunch of teams. Every team lost to them in 2020. Texas A&M, the only team that said they beat them in 2021. When last time Georgia beat Alabama?
And that took a last-second field goal,
absolutely.
by the way.
So, I would say this: make a decision that Stetson is the guy. Because I do think, Kevin, a lot of it be noise. Because this is something that we talked about. If I told you a guy was 6 feet, 180 pounds, you would think that's too small. That would be Bryce Young. That's how big or not big he is. See, that's the thing about Bryce Young. He's so good as a player. He's not big. There's nothing big about Bryce. Now, his game is big, but it's the thing about Stetson. Me and BJ were talking about this. Kevin, outside of Mississippi State, what has JT Daniels done to make you say, "Oh my God, he's the guy"? He hasn't. I mean, he's been all right. It's like, if I keep on saying, "Hey, dude, this dude is gonna be what?" The greatest ability that Stetson has, that JT Daniels doesn't have, is availability. Stetson is always hurt. Now, I'm not blaming him on that, but you can't make the club in the tub, right?
I mean, you said it backwards, the other way around.
I'm
You said
sorry.
Stetson was always hurt. No, it's
I'm sorry.
JT
Daniels always
has been banged
but
up
now,
quite a bit.
But now, Kevin, it becomes this: if you are the pass rush, you haven't stopped learning how to rush the passer. You got to just force that quarterback to get off his spot and make throws. Nobody can run the ball on you, so that's still apparent. But if you are the secondary, you're gonna have to make one-on-one plays. You're gonna have to find a way to win those 50-50 battles. Now, I don't think you got to worry about Bryce Young running out there. I don't think you got to worry about that. But I think what the Georgia team got to understand is that team across from them can beat you. Like, this notion of Kevin, and the reason why Kirby Smart is always talking about, man, he kept saying this was a reality check. Like, when people say don't listen to the noise, you know why you got to tell people that? Because they do. Man, you 18 to 24-year-old, I'm the number one team in the country. We ain't gave up but less than 90 points all year. We the best thing. We are the clear-cut number one. Listen, and here comes the equalizer, known as Alabama, who, Kevin, what didn't look like themselves. Got to go to overtime, to beat Auburn. And, look at it was against LSU when you lose to Texas A&M. But then people saying Alabama played their best game. I don't know if Alabama played their best game. I think Alabama just played better. So if you are Georgia, Kevin, you do like anybody does. You brush yourself off, you take a deep breath, you understand who you played, you go and you look at the tape, you reevaluate what you didn't do well. You don't point the finger. You don't say, well, look over here. Nope. Because the only way you can point the finger at another player is if you had a perfect game, and I have yet to see it. I've yet to see a perfect player or a perfect game. I've seen great performances, but not perfection. So if you are Georgia, you get back to what you used to do. Listen, you lost one game and it was to Alabama, so it's not like what you doing didn't work. But you got to know this when it come to Michigan. Michigan beat the team they had to get over the hump with. They beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
And Harbaugh, Kevin, it's like Harbaugh ain't never lost a game. Oh my God, Harbaugh had something that most coaches don't have at university, and that's patience, because he was the greatest 8-4 coach you ever seen before this season. But another thing Michigan has, they have a Heisman Trophy candidate at defensive end. Georgia might have Heisman Trophy consideration players like Jordan Davis and what may have you. Michigan is good enough to go toe-to-toe with Georgia because they got big, cornbread-fed offensive linemen that want to run the football, that's good at stopping the pass. And the thing is, Kevin, is this. I'm not here to call names, but if you are Nolan Smith, you guys got to win the one-on-one battles, because if Jordan Davis take up 2 tackles and Nakobe Dean, they bring him in on pass rusher down to rusher, somebody got to win. But don't panic, man. You one of the last 4 teams standing. I don't think you just lose your mind. I don't think you just, rip everything up. But you see why Nick Saban says, I don't let my players get caught up in news clippings and narratives and all these things, because until you have done it, it ain't nothing to talk about. Alabama don't play for SEC championship games. They play to win them, but they playing for natties. Georgia, because think about this, Kevin, the SEC media days is going to be interesting no matter what. Either Alabama's going to come in, won the SEC and won the national championship, or Georgia can potentially come in, not have won the SEC and still won that championship. Because I want to say in 2018, Georgia won the SEC in 2018. Who won the national championship? That would be Alabama. And I think that that's the kind of thing, you don't look too far down the road, but I think that this Michigan team is more dangerous than people give them credit for. Every time people think Georgia's just going to, let me tell y'all something, man. Y'all better watch out for the Michigan boys. They play ugly. It ain't pretty to watch, but you look up at the scoreboard, it's 21-17 Michigan going into the fourth quarter, because Michigan going to want to make it ugly and sloppy. Georgia going to need to just get back to what they do. They still got Jordan Davis and the Kobe Dean, who's the Buckets Award winner, and I think he's on the Good Works team, which is even more incredible. Stick with Stetson. Find somebody other to throw the football to other than Brock Bowers.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. It's like George Pickens. He played a little bit in that SEC championship game. How much 3 weeks from now is he going to be able to play? How much does he want to play? I mean, I say how much, but that as Christian, as I were talking, how much does that go into consideration? How much he wants to play with potential millions of dollars out there, but how much can he be utilized 3 weeks from now in a game like that?
I think he can be utilized incredibly if you got to be smart, though. Like, I don't think he plays every single snap on offense. That's not good for him. That's not good for Georgia. But if you don't think that Michigan secondary saw what he did, the one play that he made impactful, I mean, that's what you one-on-one balls, you throw it to the sideline, made the best man made the best man win. But Kevin, just like I know, if George Pickens don't run off that field, because that's the thing people don't get, I'm weighing my future. I mean, I think it's great that for Georgia's number one, he got a chance to come back and play in the SEC championship game. But I remember Jalen Waddle last year in the national championship game. No pun intended, he was waddling around. He was running, limping. He really, really was. And the thing about it is I don't want George Pickens to think that whatever decision he makes is a bad one. If he wants to play, let him play. But you got to hold him back even if you do let him play. And if he don't want to play, hey, man, I wouldn't fault that young man. And that's the thing, Kevin, is every opt-outs only happen in games, in bowl games that don't matter. Ain't going to beat you in the opt-outs in the Final Four. That's not happening. But if you are Georgia, respect Michigan, which they will. Brush yourself off, take a deep breath, which they should, and get back to doing what you're doing. Because if you try to come out there getting cute, them boys from Ann Arbor, they can play football, man. It ain't, like I said, it ain't pretty, but they are the Big Ten champion, and they played Penn State, and they beat the brakes off Ohio State. Oh, my God. Iowa showed up, if you want to call it that. So if you Georgia, man, get back to being you.
Yeah, going to be interesting to watch how Georgia develops here over the next 2 or 3 weeks, mentally getting ready for the bounce back game against Michigan there in the Orange Bowl. We got so much more to get to here on 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. to have you back here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, as we get ready for bowl season. Of course, the college football playoff still 3 weeks away on New Year's Eve when we get those 2 semifinal games. But Georgia and Michigan going to play in the Orange Bowl in that first round, the semifinals of the college football playoff. And joining us here, former All-American running back and 1978 SEC Player of the Year, Willie Mcclendon, joins us here on 3 and Out. Willie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys, and thanks for having me on the show again.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on and joining us. From your standpoint, talk about what happened in the SEC championship game. I know there could have been multiple things, but what happened in the SEC championship game that maybe we didn't see happen all season long with this Georgia team once they went up against Alabama?
I think the biggest thing that happened was Alabama hearing all the flack about how great the Georgia defense was and how their offensive line could not compete. So once you make a team and individuals like they have at the University of Alabama, you really don't need to give those guys that underdog feeling. And so they took that underdog mantra, put it on their shoulders, and it showed up Saturday.
And Willie, if you talk about a guy like Nick Saban, who uses every single thing he can to motivate his team, obviously the whole rat poison thing, it was good and all this that in the post game press conference. But talk a little bit more about that. A guy, Nick Saban, who says, "Look, man, I just need little bitty things to kind of motivate my team, because at the end of the day, while Georgia was the number 1 team in the country, they still had to climb that hill that known as Alabama."
That's correct, and you're so correct with that analysis. And right, once you have a team that is the history with its coaches, players, you make those guys feel like underdogs, and wow, hang on. So we did, and that's what happened Saturday.
And Willie, obviously, Georgia's got to put that behind them and get ready for the college football playoffs. Obviously, that's a second chance to go back and still attain the goals that are out there. How do you see this matchup against Michigan, another team that is going to be physical at the line of scrimmage? They want to run the football and really get after the quarterback with that defense. How do you take kind of some of the disappointment of what happened last Saturday, shove that aside, and get you ready for Michigan?
Well, hopefully they have gotten over that defeat in the first 24 hours and realized the challenge that they have in front of them with this University of Michigan football team. They are very physical. They play football the way a lot of coaches would like to play it. Good, aggressive defense, hard-nosed, beat-you-up offensive line, and just good football team. So hopefully, once again, that they've gotten over that beatdown within the first 24 hours and get focused on the task at hand.
And Willie, how much different is it when you talk about a team like Michigan, who I think has only played Georgia 2 times in the existence of Michigan and Georgia, but you're talking about a team that mirrors kind of how Georgia used to play offense. They want to run the football. They want to play stifling defense, but sometimes it's kind of good to get back to that. Just throw away all the game plans. It's going to be one-on-one. Who can establish the line of scrimmage? Who can go out there, and take the other man's will from them?
That's where it starts at first, and then the coaches make the adjustment as the game goes on. If you can't run the ball, then you make sure that your passing attack can get up to standard. You make sure that the players understand where they are in the situation, and you make those game time adjustments. So it's going to be a very, very good game.
Willie Mcclendon, our guest here on 3 and Out, as again, Georgia headed to the college football playoff, and you look at the Georgia running game, Willie, and obviously things change as the game goes along, but where do you feel that Georgia run game is here late in the season, obviously against a team like Alabama? Where is it going to need to be against a team like Michigan?
I think the run game is really solid. It has been all year long. What was so different about the Alabama game, the SEC championship, is that Georgia was playing catch up for the first time. So they didn't handle it well. The defense didn't handle it well. missed assignments for a lot of the long touchdown passes, the wide open receivers running throughout defensive backfield. So it would be once again, a great film to learn on, and they really need to get their minds right with the challenge that faced them. So I expect the Dogs to do so.
Willie, is obviously storied, you and your son and the Mcclendon, your nephew Warren, obviously he's doing great things right now at the University of Florida on the offensive line. But something else to add to the Mcclendon legacy, your son Brian, the interim head coach right now for them Oregon Ducks, who's getting ready for a big-time bowl game.
Yes, and Brian is very excited about that challenge. When the head coach had the opportunity to move on to the University of Miami, the athletic director called Brian immediately and presented this opportunity for him. And so Brian, being the person that he is, accepted that challenge. So I'm looking for him to do what he's always done in this situation, is to lead men and continue to be a very positive person that he is.
And Willie, speak to that. Obviously, as a player, everybody said, "Hey, I want to make it to the next level and and go to the NFL and the pros." But your son's been around this coaching game a little while. I mean, how difficult is it to rise the ranks and get that head coaching shot, even as at this point an interim basis? But obviously, to get that shot at a big time program like Oregon.
Well, I tell you, I think Brian was so fortunate to be nurtured by Mark Richt, a guy that has a very deep respect for his game, for the game of football, and for his players. So from that aspect, Mark Richt, his influence on Brian, the type of person that he is, and really did a wonderful job of seeing the possibilities in Brian and offering him an opportunity to get in coaching immediately after his senior year. So Mark Richt has always been a favorite of the Mcclendon families, and I really love the relationship that he and Brian developed as time went on. And I think Brian adopted a lot of those positive things that he learned under Mark Richt, and this is where he is now.
And Willie, obviously, you talk about your son and how he came up through the ranks and just always, making it about young men. You look at a team like Notre Dame that did something unprecedented in hiring, a Marcus Freeman, coming right behind Brian Kelly. If your son does become, the head coach, take the interim off, becomes the head coach of them Oregon Ducks, you got your Oregon Duck green ready to hit the plane to get to Eugene?
Absolutely. I had the chance to get out there and visit with them for the UCLA game, which was actually in Los Angeles that particular weekend I was out there. But absolutely, go green, go Ducks. All in.
Willie Mcclendon, our guest here on 3 and Out. Willie, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you guys once again, and go 3 and Out.
Hey, we appreciate it. Willie Mcclendon joining us here on 3 and Out. And again, Georgia in the semifinals. His son now the interim head coach at the University of Oregon. So as you said, the things going well there in the Mcclendon household with great player was Willie, son the interim head coach at Oregon, nephew played on that offensive line at Georgia. So doing a great job. So a lot of good stuff happening there.
Kevin, that's the royal family. Every school has a royal family, right? I mean, when you think about Ole Miss, it's the Mannings. You got Eli and Archie. When you think about a team like down there in Florida where I was, you got the Jackson family, Willie Jackson Jr. and Sr., Terry Jackson. And the thing is, Willie Jackson Sr. was the first African American, obviously, to get a scholarship at Florida. His son became an All-American at receiver. His youngest son won a national championship. His stepdaughter played basketball. So when you think about the McClendons, Willie, SEC Offensive Player of the Year, son played receiver. I think his brother went to Georgia. His nephew get a chance to possibly win a national championship. And now, hey man, them Oregon Ducks, man. So hey, if it is good to be in McClendon. I feel bad for the grandchildren. That is a lot. That is a lot to fulfill. But hey, man, shout out to the McClendons. Hey, that is royalty outside of the Edwards. I don't want to take away from Terrence and his brother Robert, but we talk about the McClendons, a great family with a great rich tradition in sports.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. Love to hear from you. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're also streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, and on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Welcome back, 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you are with us here on this Tuesday, and certainly with all the coaching changes and hirings and firings going on, Ben, it's going to be a wild run up here to the 15th of December when we get that early signing period and see how the Brian Kellys, Lincoln Rileys, how many of these guys were pledged somewhere else, all of a sudden end up where the new coach is headed there in college football. Should be very interesting. But again, you're talking about the timetable has moved in college football for these coaches. I mean, people forget USC has been open since the 3rd week of the season. And it used to be you get to the rivalry weekend. Okay, didn't go our way. Didn't have a great season. You're done. All right, we'll take the early portion of December. We'll find our coach, maybe have the coach hired by the time the first week of bowl games are going on. And then January, February, we can do that. Can't do that anymore. Because if you're a P5 program, especially, most of these guys are doing 80-85% of their class in the early signing period and finishing up there on National Signing Day in February. Some of these G5 schools, your Louisianas, your Georgia Southerns, we've seen, Ben, 50-60% of their class done in the early signing period, and then they see how it falls and go finish up their class in February. So now it's, hey, if we feel like this thing's going south, we're going to break somebody loose in November, try to get a coach by Thanksgiving, December 1st, and hit the ground running.
It depends on really the approach. I know Billy Napier, new head coach of Florida, Kevin, he's come out and said, I'm not going to focus too much on the early signing period because I know I'm going to be at a disadvantage. And that's based off what he's seen previously done with Dan Mullen and the guys that came before him. If you are the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Oklahomas, the USCs of the world, you have to make sure that your class in the top 5, top 10, not just from perception-wise, but it shows that I was able to build the momentum of the previous coach. Now, I will say this, Kevin, when you talk about a team like Miami, Mario Cristobal just became the head coach yesterday. Can he do what he said and being able to keep the South Florida kids in South Florida? So, Kevin, I mean, the perception listen, college football is 2 things. 1, the college football playoff because it's so prestigious. But 2, these national recruiting rankings. Because if you want to see your fan base lose their mind, where do these recruiting rankings come out? You in the top 25 when you're supposed to be in the top 15. You in the top 15, you were supposed to be in the top 10. You in the top 10, you were supposed to be in the top 5. Coaches, the honeymoon is over. You've done your preliminary, you've done your introduction press conference with scared money don't make money, speaking in Spanish, loving it. Kevin, you know just like I know. Them recruiting rankings coming out, they counting 5 stars. Then they counting 4 stars. Then they counting stars, period. Like, dude, what? Because you know, just like I know, Kevin, it's literally, I mean, we ain't getting the guy. Let me tell y'all something. You're not going to, these are 18 to 21-year-olds. Don't let the loser syndrome come out and start DMing these young people because they chose, I don't know, Georgia Tech over Duke. Because, Kevin, you know it's going to come out. A bunch of grown men talking about they don't care. They don't get it. No, recruiting is the lifeblood of every program. And you want to make sure you win the perception battle because, Kevin, if you start losing in 2022, they're going to go back to early signing period in 2021 and say, we didn't get anybody. But, hey, man, whatever strategy you got, make sure it's a winning one. Because you know, I know, Kevin, if you can't get them players in there, I don't care what type of scheme you got. You will not beat the elite programs out there.
Yeah, the best coach in the world can't overcome the other team having really, really, really good talent on the other side of the football field. Appreciate George Foster joining us here, former Georgia offensive lineman, Willie Mcclendon, former All-American at Georgia, 1978 SEC Player of the Year, and David Waters, Gators Breakdown, joined us back in hour number 2, looking at Billy Napier and his kind of first couple of days there officially on the job at Florida. We got some basketball coming up for you later tonight, Jimmy V Classic, and we got more to break down tomorrow, Wednesday edition of the show. We'll see you tomorrow here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.